The Developing Family Center with a team of midwives in Washington, D.C. in the effort to lower the infant mortality rate. What they accomplished would change lives forever. This is her story.
Ruth Lubic, 81, still having fun.
So I sing this song for you today. It's a new my future's gonna be golden. So I sing this song for you.
I was born by the love of Ruth Lubic. She tackled the problem harder than a Rubik. People ask her 81 why I go through it. She like, please, ain't nothing to it. She do it in her sleep for the love of the baby. She do it for the weak, bring sane to the crazy. She did it in the worst where the system betrayed me. So you can't say it takes an is a maybe. Ruth Lubic, you know I love you, girl. Wanna take your heart share with the whole world. You can take your light, cause it shines so bright, and hang it with the stars that illuminate the night. But we need you right here, yes, that's clear. Changing maternal health, skip the welfare. You give them love, respect, you give them dignity. To the moms, pass it on to the baby.
So I sing this song for you today. It's a new
Depression. I was born in 1927, and I remember very well 1932 when Roosevelt was elected and so forth. But I also remember that my father, who was a pharmacist in a small town in Pennsylvania, used to hawk my mother's jewelry to have enough to be able to go out and buy medicines to give to people in the community. So my parents never sat me down and said, you always try to help people less fortunate than you are, but they showed me. And so that's where I got my drive to do this. When I went to nursing school, I was really very negatively impressed at the way women were treated in labor, and given drugs for pain and to make them forget, amnesiacs and so forth, and then put in a bed with padded side rails so that they wouldn't hurt themselves or their fetuses while they were laboring, because many of them lost control because of the drugs they were given. Then when they went to the delivery room, they were fastened to the delivery table with leather wristlets on their wrists and on their ankles. And they were not permitted to touch their babies if they were awake, because they would be given more anesthesia, like when they were in the delivery room. But they were not permitted to touch their babies because they were told they were dirty and the baby was clean. So that's where I got this sense of how can a woman effectively mother when she's had an experience like that, bringing her child into the world. She doesn't, this expression of being delivered is really true in that sense, whereas we tell women that we're going to help them to give birth. It was an interesting blind date because at the time I was a student nurse, and we had to live in dormitories, and you could not bring men into the dormitories. And so my husband was very late because there was a snowstorm that night. And so I was a little bit impatient with him when I first met him. But we got over that, and now we have been married for 56 years.
Over the years, I would like to do this from two perspectives. First, that of the management of the childbirth experience in the 1950s when my son Douglas was born. That would be a day that I pushed him out.
Developing Family Center is the third birth center that I've been involved in. First one on 92nd Street in Carnegie Hill in Manhattan. We did not attract low-income people. We went to the South Bronx, and we learned a lot in the South Bronx. Not only that we could improve outcomes, but that we could strengthen the families. And there's a film called Hope Reborn, empowering families in the South Bronx. So when I got to MacArthur, I decided that I wanted to come to the place that had the worst of the worst outcomes in the country, our own nation's capital, and that's what we did. The Developing Family Center was incorporated in 1998 in DC's Ward 5, which is a low-income African-American, mainly African-American ward. And after extensive renovation of a donated long-vacant Safeway supermarket, it opened its doors to provide services in October of the year 2000. The DFC is an innovative, collaborative project to provide services to childbearing and child-rearing families, with special attention to reducing the disparate maternal and infant outcomes suffered by low-income African-American families. With the assistance of 3 service-providing agencies, one of which is the Family Health and Birth Center, families receive and participate in care according to their needs rather than the needs of an organization.
In the birth center, this birth center here is somewhat different from other birth centers in the country because it has a strong pediatric focus. And so it's a nurse-driven model with pediatric nurse practitioners and family nurse practitioners that are looking at the whole family. And so that emphasis of before birth, during birth, after birth, and then the child's development from then on is something that is a continuum of care. And we look at the DFC model as a continuum of care model.
Big, heavy person.
Every time Ruth Lubic fusses over a healthy baby, the joy in her voice comes from 8 long years of beating the odds. Here in Washington, D.C., where the infant mortality rate is almost double the national average, Ruth Lubic and her team of midwives run a birthing clinic in one of the city's poorest areas. After some 800 babies, the team has never lost a child in childbirth and has cut the rate of premature births, the biggest risk factor for infant mortality, in half. You're saving a lot of lives here.
Saving lives and also increasing the quality of life.
Ruth built her clinic in Washington, D.C. on purpose. She figured if her ideas worked here, if she could tackle infant mortality in Washington, she'd set an example everywhere. Her approach is simple. She believes low-income women, many on Medicaid, need the prenatal education that midwives provide.
Over onto your side.
Everything from posture to nutrition to how the baby grows.
Press right in here. Thanks.
Anike Oliver, who just had a baby boy, Yukama, said she got more time with the midwives than she had with a doctor.
They wanted to make sure I had as much information as they did.
Do you think it boils down to the time you spend with them?
I think so. I'm convinced that that's what it is. It's time, it's respect, it's treating people with dignity.
What's most remarkable is that Ruth still does this at 81 years old. She runs this clinic during the week, then runs home on the weekends to her husband in New York. You could be retired.
I'm not tired the first time, much less retired.
Do you believe her results?
Absolutely.
Ruth's biggest fan is D.C. City Councilman David Catania. He says because Ruth keeps hundreds of babies out of prenatal care, she saves the city around $1 million a year. That's why he supports her when Ruth hounds the city council for funding.
While I tease her a lot about being kind of a pit bull with a smile, I look at her sometimes with complete envy about how you can have such a burning drive at 81.
The difference predominantly between midwifery care and obstetric care is we believe in women empowerment and education. So we try to make sure that the woman is an informed consumer with her care. And we also specialize in natural birth and out of hospital birth. One misconception is that we're not safe, and our stats and our numbers show. We have national data banks that show that our safety is there.
I think that alone is going to help healthcare, just providing greater access. There's so many health disparities going on right now, and racial disparities. I think midwives just are doing a phenomenal job, and we just got to get more midwives.
I don't know, I feel like a good more support here. Like you at home. I feel comfortable. It's like another support system, like a second mom. Somebody that will be there for you.
Love. I want to feel love of the staff members for each other and love of the staff for the clients, for the women. And that's what I get.
It's less stress at the birthing center, and you get to go home the same day. I love that. I got to go home, and then she also came to my house, so they kept in contact with me, and I just love it. It's so good.
Urban areas. There are many birth centers around the country, freestanding birth centers, about 200 of them. And there is an organization for birth centers, and there is accreditation for birth centers, as well as licensure for them. So the Developing Family Center is well recognized as being, yeah, this is what we need to do. Replication is a problem. Our survival is a problem because of Medicaid managed care. And what I'm spending my days doing is trying to convince the Centers for Medicaid and Medicare Innovation to make what we're doing a pilot around the country. There must be 50 or 60 places around the country that want to replicate what we're doing. And just a week or so ago, we had a group from Ghana coming. They want to replicate what we're doing. At that.
You know about my work?
Yes.
Yes, you know that when you really treat people like fellow human beings, it's wonderful what happens, and it empowers them. You know, we just let everybody know that they're very worthwhile.
So I sing this song for you. Ooh, oh,
So I sing this song for you.
We speak for the 800 babies that Ruth and the midwives made free. Cause I assume that most can't even speak, let alone understand the odds you beat. But what a feeling it is to bring life, a brand new face in the world to shed light. The future is ours to uphold and teach. Only be a minute till the eyes open and speak. We think like Ruth believed, educated moms making babies healthy and free. ICDC, what it be? Crushing the rate of infant mortality. Big shout to Ruth at 81, still giving back, giving life to everyone. Community, thanks you for their daughters and sons. Where I'm from, that makes you number one.
So I sing this song for you. Today, it's a new dawn. My future's gonna be golden. So I sing this song for you.
Yo, Ruth Lubic has the passion of fire, never too tired to retire. The burning desire to save lives, connecting pregnant women with midwives, treating everyone with dignity, lowering the rate of infant mortality. Yeah, every morning that a baby's being born, we salute you for your cause to the break of dawn. Word is born. Ruth Lubic has the passion of fire. I admire and makes me want to reach higher. You're giving a reason for people to believe there's still good in this world and this time of need. Yeah, so please keep doing what you do. We will support you. God will reward you. On behalf of hip hop, save lives.
So I sing this song for you.
Thank you.